Welcome to episode 8 of Workplace English Masterclass. Have you ever had a great idea but struggled to explain it confidently? Or perhaps you've wanted to contribute during a meeting but felt unsure about how to present your thoughts professionally? If so, you're not alone. Many professionals have valuable ideas, but not everyone knows how to communicate those ideas effectively. The ability to present ideas clearly and confidently is one of the most valuable workplace skills you can develop. Strong presentation skills can help you influence decisions, gain support for your ideas, build credibility, and create a positive professional impression. In today's lesson, you'll learn practical phrases and techniques that professionals use to introduce ideas, explain their thinking, support their arguments, and respond confidently to questions. By the end of this lesson, you'll feel more confident sharing your ideas in meetings, discussions, and workplace conversations. Let's get started. Before we learn the phrases, let's understand why presentation skills matter. The first benefit is communicating clearly. Even the best ideas can be overlooked if they are not communicated effectively. Strong presenters organize their thoughts and explain them clearly so others can understand their message. The second benefit is influencing decisions. Workplaces often involve discussions, proposals, and decision-making. When you present your ideas clearly, people are more likely to understand and support your recommendations. The third benefit is building credibility. Professionals who communicate confidently are often viewed as knowledgeable, prepared, and reliable. This can strengthen your professional reputation. The fourth benefit is inspiring confidence. When you present your ideas with confidence, others are more likely to have confidence in those ideas as well. Confidence helps create trust and engagement. The final benefit is sharing ideas effectively. Many organizations depend on innovation and collaboration. The ability to communicate ideas effectively helps teams solve problems and achieve better results. For these reasons, presentation skills are essential in almost every professional environment. Let's begin with some useful phrases for introducing an idea professionally. The first phrase is, "I'd like to share an idea." This phrase is simple, professional, and easy to use in meetings and discussions. For example, "I'd like to share an idea that could improve customer satisfaction." This clearly signals that you are about to present a suggestion. The second phrase is, "I'd like to propose." The word propose is commonly used in professional environments when introducing a recommendation or solution. For example, "I'd like to propose a new approach to client communication." This phrase sounds confident and professional. The third phrase is, "I have a suggestion." This phrase is useful when contributing to discussions or brainstorming sessions. For example, "I have a suggestion that may help us improve efficiency." The final phrase is, "I'd like to discuss." This phrase introduces a topic that you would like the group to consider. For example, "I'd like to discuss a possible improvement to our onboarding process." These phrases help you introduce ideas clearly and professionally, while encouraging others to listen and engage with your proposal. Once you've introduced your idea, the next step is explaining it clearly. A good idea is only effective if people understand it. Let's look at some useful phrases. The first phrase is, "The main reason is." This phrase helps explain the purpose behind your idea. For example, "The main reason is to improve communication between departments." When people understand the reason behind an idea, they are more likely to support it. The second phrase is, "This could help us." This phrase focuses on the positive impact of your proposal. For example, "This could help us reduce response times and improve customer satisfaction." Professional presentations often focus on benefits and outcomes. The third phrase is, "One benefit is." This phrase introduces a specific advantage. For example, "One benefit is increased efficiency." When presenting ideas, it's important to explain exactly how the organization or team may benefit. The final phrase is, "This approach would." This phrase helps explain the expected result of your recommendation. For example, This approach would streamline the approval process and reduce delays. Strong presenters don't just share ideas. They explain why those ideas matter and how they can create value. Presenting an idea is important. Supporting that idea with evidence is even more important. People are more likely to support your recommendations when they are backed by facts, examples, or experience. Let's explore some useful phrases. The first phrase is, for example. Examples help make ideas easier to understand. For instance, several companies have successfully implemented similar systems. Examples help transform abstract ideas into practical situations. The second phrase is, based on the data. This phrase introduces evidence and information. For example, based on the data, customer satisfaction increased by 15% after the changes were implemented. Using data often strengthens the credibility of your argument. The third phrase is, research shows that. This phrase introduces findings from studies or industry knowledge. For example, research shows that regular feedback improves employee performance. Research can help support your recommendations and make them more persuasive. The final phrase is, our experience suggests. This phrase uses past observations or workplace experience as evidence. For example, our experience suggests that customers prefer faster response times. Evidence helps transform opinions into convincing and persuasive arguments. The strongest presentations combine ideas with supporting evidence. Even the best ideas may generate questions. That's completely normal. In fact, questions often indicate that people are interested and engaged. Let's look at some useful phrases for handling questions professionally. The first phrase is, that's a great question. This phrase acknowledges the question positively and creates a respectful atmosphere. For example, that's a great question. Let me explain. This helps the audience feel that their contribution is valued. The second phrase is, let me explain. This phrase allows you to provide additional information or clarification. For example, let me explain how this process would work in practice. Clear explanations help strengthen understanding. The third phrase is, let me clarify. This phrase is useful when there may be confusion or misunderstanding. For example, let me clarify what I meant by that point. Clarification helps ensure everyone has the same understanding. The final phrase is, thank you for raising that point. This phrase demonstrates professionalism and appreciation. For example, thank you for raising that point. It's an important consideration. Professional presenters view questions as opportunities to strengthen their message, rather than challenges to overcome. Let's examine our first workplace scenario. The employee says, I'd like to propose a new customer feedback system. This is an excellent way to introduce an idea professionally. Notice that the employee doesn't simply say, I have an idea. Instead, they use the word propose. This sounds more professional and business-oriented. The employee then continues. One benefit is faster response times. This is important because effective presenters don't just introduce ideas, they explain the value of those ideas. By highlighting a specific benefit, the employee helps the audience understand why the proposal matters. Imagine if the employee simply said, I'd like to propose a new customer feedback system, and stopped there. The audience might not understand why the idea is important. Strong presenters always explain the benefits and expected outcomes of their recommendations. This makes their ideas more persuasive and easier to support. In professional environments, people are often more interested in the benefits than the idea itself. Always ask yourself, how does this help the team, the customer, or the organization? If you can answer that question clearly, your presentations will become much more effective. Let's look at another workplace scenario. The manager asks, how would this improve efficiency? This is a common question during meetings and presentations. When presenting ideas, you should always be prepared to explain your reasoning and provide evidence. The employee responds, based on the data, response times could improve by 20%. Notice that the employee supports the idea with evidence. They do not simply say, "I think it will work." Instead, they refer to data. This makes the response more convincing and credible. Using evidence demonstrates preparation and professionalism. It also helps decision makers feel more confident about supporting your proposal. Whether you use data, research, examples, or past experience, supporting your ideas with evidence makes your presentation stronger and more persuasive. The best presenters combine confidence with evidence. Confidence gains attention. Evidence earns trust. Now let's discuss some common presentation mistakes. The first mistake is speaking too quickly. Many people become nervous when presenting and start rushing through their ideas. However, speaking too quickly can make it difficult for the audience to follow your message. Professional presenters speak at a steady pace and allow important points to sink in. The second mistake is providing weak explanations. Sometimes presenters introduce an idea but fail to explain why it matters. As a result, the audience may not fully understand the value of the proposal. Strong presenters explain their reasoning, provide examples, and highlight benefits. The third mistake is ignoring questions. Questions are not interruptions. They are opportunities to clarify information and strengthen your experience. Now, let's look at the positive alternatives. Speaking clearly helps the audience understand your message. Using examples makes ideas more memorable and relatable. Engaging the audience creates interest and encourages participation. Remember, effective presentations are not just about speaking. They are about helping others understand, connect with, and support your ideas. Let's now explore some practical tips that can help you become a more confident and effective presenter. The first tip is, know your topic. One of the biggest sources of nervousness is feeling unprepared. The better you understand your topic, the more confident you'll feel when presenting it to others. Preparation helps you answer questions, explain ideas clearly, and speak with confidence. The second tip is, organize your ideas. A well-structured presentation is easier for your audience to follow. Before presenting, think about the order of your points. Start with your main idea, explain your reasoning, provide supporting evidence, and then summarize your key message. The third tip is, use examples. Examples help transform ideas into something concrete and relatable. For example, if you're proposing a new process, explain how it would work in a real workplace situation. Examples help audiences understand and remember your message. The fourth tip is, maintain eye contact. Eye contact helps create connection and engagement. It shows confidence and demonstrates that you're speaking to your audience rather than simply reading information. The final tip is, speak confidently. Confidence doesn't mean speaking loudly or pretending to know everything. It means communicating clearly, speaking at a steady pace, and believing in the value of your message. These simple habits can dramatically improve the effectiveness of your presentations. Now it's your turn to practice. Speaking practice is one of the most effective ways to build presentation confidence. Let's work through these sentence starters together. The first sentence is, I'd like to propose. Think of an idea that could improve a process, solve a problem, or create a positive outcome. For example, I'd like to propose a new employee onboarding program. The second sentence is, one benefit is. Remember that effective presenters explain the value of their ideas. For example, one benefit is improved communication between departments. The third sentence is, based on the data. This phrase helps support your ideas with evidence. For example, based on the data, customer satisfaction has increased significantly over the past 6 months. The final sentence is, let me clarify. This phrase is useful when answering questions or explaining information further. For example, let me clarify how this recommendation would be implemented. Try completing each sentence using examples from your own workplace, studies, business ideas, or daily experiences. The more you practice these phrases, the more natural and confident you'll become when presenting ideas to others. Congratulations on completing Episode 8 of Workplace English Masterclass. Today, you've learned how to present ideas professionally, explain your thinking clearly, support your ideas with evidence, and respond confidently to questions. Let's briefly review what we've covered. You learned how to introduce ideas professionally. You learned how to explain the purpose and benefits of your ideas. You learned how to strengthen your arguments using examples, data, research, and experience. You learned how to handle questions professionally and confidently. And you explored practical strategies for becoming a more effective presenter. Remember, successful presentations are not about using complicated vocabulary or sounding perfect. They are about communicating ideas clearly, confidently, and persuasively. Every great presentation begins with a clear idea and the confidence to share it. As you continue developing your workplace communication skills, try using some of today's phrases during meetings, presentations, and workplace discussions. With practice, you'll become more comfortable presenting ideas and influencing decisions professionally. In Episode 9, we'll learn how to write professional emails that are clear, polite, and effective in workplace communication. Thank you for learning with Everyday English Treats. I'll see you in the next lesson.